Today's guest is Luisa, who is the host of the YouTube channel Passion Harvest. You guys, I have been watching her videos for a long time. She's interviewed nearly 200 people in all types of spiritual topics, but today we get a rare glimpse and a chance to pick her brain about signs and synchronicities that she has had in her life. She is going to share lots of thoughts on a bunch of topics, including love and soulmates and soul contracts, and how you can reclaim your own power. Aha moment after aha moment. You are not going to want to miss this. So are you ready? So I am so excited to have Luisa, who has her own channel on YouTube called Passion Harvest. She has produced over 200 videos ranging from topics like NDEs, past life memories, angels and guides, to my life as an Arcturian hybrid. She's also created 26 seasons on topics like creating your reality, multi-dimensions, intuition, the power of choice. And I have to say that no one falls into these topics by accident. There is always definitely a calling, and Passion Harvest calling is inspiring you to live a life that you love. I know that signs and synchronicities have guided you, Luisa. So can we start by you sharing your journey and path into this arena?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. I'm so honored to be on your show today.
And, I'm so happy to have you here. And we should tell the audience, we are in such different time zones. I'm in Arizona, United States.
And I'm in Australia, so it's 10 a.m. for me, and I think it's late afternoon for you.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I love it. I love the technology can bring us together this way. So thank you for being my guest today.
It's amazing. So the question was, how did I start with Passion Harvest? Oh gosh, and I'm going to try and keep this condensed, but
no, and it doesn't have to be. Everybody wants the details.
Well, we talk about synchronicities, and this is the sort of the theme that we're talking about today. I don't believe anything happens by accident. There's always signs, there's always guidance if we're open to look for it. Often, and as I've progressed on my journey, I find, well, myself included in the past, people always ask or pray for things, but they don't wait for the answers. They don't align themselves and have a little bit of patience. And we live in such a fast-paced world. But anyway, I was in I think Passion Harvest is 2.5 years old now, but maybe 3 years ago, I was in a corporate role, not very happy, in an unhappy marriage. I had 2 beautiful children that are older now. And something happened, and I wanted to find out about universal truths, and I wanted to get more spiritual. I always had been, but I think, sort of through life and certain things that had happened in my life that kind of blocked off quite a lot. And I started listening to Abraham Hicks, who was amazing at the time. And I just wanted more. And I realized there's more to life than, I had a great job, a beautiful office, but I just got up each day. I dragged my weary body out of bed, and I was really unhappy. And I realized I didn't have anything in common with my co-workers, and I didn't want to be there. And I would pack my little lunch and go across the road from the office to this little park across the road. And I started meditating at that time, and I would close my eyes purposely and look up to the sun in case any of my co-workers saw me and thought I was kind of weird trying to meditate. And so I'd kick off my high heels and sit on the grass and have my lunch. And I realized it was the happiest time of my day. And I just thought, there's got to be more to life than this. Yes, we all have the mortgage and, finances, and we all aspire to a certain way of life. And I remember I looked down and I saw this gum leaf, a very native Australian tree, and I thought it was so beautiful. It was nothing. It was just a simple gum leaf. And I brought it back to my office as a sign for me as what was the happiest time in my day. And I hid the gum leaf behind my monitor, my computer screen. Again, at that time, I was so worried about what people thought of me. And coincidence. Nothing happens by accident. I was eventually, after a few months, retrenched from the role, and I was devastated, but I was elated at the time. I was terrified of what I was going to do, but I asked for this. I asked to find more in life. I just want to say, often looking back, it might not make sense now, but in 6 months or a couple of years, everything makes sense. And I remember packing up my office, and there was nothing in there that I really wanted. I mean, I took a USB, and that was kind of it. And then I looked behind my computer screen and I found that gum leaf that had been there for a few months. And it was such a sign, because it was dried and shriveled up and dead. And I just got the message that if I'd stayed, that is how I would end up.
Mm.
And I walked out of that office terrified, but I made a promise to myself that I would never go back to that sort of role, and I would always follow my passions from that point forward. I would always do what felt right. And if it didn't, I trusted. I asked the universe and I said, I promise I'll trust you now. I'm going to trust my feelings and follow my heart from then on. And that's how I decided from there. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just thought, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I really want to evolve spiritually. I want to speak like to you, thought leaders across the globe. And instead of me reading hundreds of books, I get to speak to people, and I receive the information a lot quicker. And not only that, one of the most important things I've realized in our purpose, in our passions, is to give back. So I get to speak to all these incredible people. And not only that, I get to share it with the world. So I started Passion Harvest. I remember doing my first interview. I was terrible in the beginning. I was such a bad interviewer. I was so nervous. And I still remember my first episode, working out how to do YouTube and podcasts. And I deliberated for about 3 hours to press upload on the button. I was so worried. I thought, all my family and friends are going to think I'm such a weirdo. No one's going to like this. But I was so excited about it, and I did it. And it's evolved amazingly since that time. And that's the birth of Passion Harvest.
Well, I don't even know if you are aware, but you have over 1.4 million views now across 200 videos.
I didn't. I'm not. Yes. But thank you for that.
It's incredible. And actually, I want to share the story of how I found you, because I also, like you, believe that there are no accidents. And I always felt very guided and led to different things. And I have been reading accounts and watching videos of near-death experiences for a very long time. I've probably watched over 1,000 of them. And I actually use those to help me raise my vibration. And so for those of people that are watching that don't understand that, we have a vibration, and it's kind of like a heart space feeling. And we can connect to that through different emotions like love and gratitude and happiness and joy. And so the news bogs everybody down. So full disclosure, I haven't watched the news in about 7 years now.
Me either.
You either. And it's funny, a lot of people in our position, we can't, because it lowers our vibration. So I'm always looking for things to raise my vibration. And you're right, we could read books, and for a long time that was our only media for spiritual outlets. But I found you because I found your recording of Peter Panagore.
Oh, I love him.
Oh my goodness. That was one of the most mind-blowing. And incidentally, he has a lot of interviews out there. Yours was the longest and most complete. So if you think in the very beginning your interviewing wasn't very good, you have come leaps and bounds, because it was an amazingly articulate, so many great questions came out of it that led it in different directions than I've seen on any other interview. So I want to thank you so much for the way you've touched my life through your videos, and multiply me times a million, of course, with all the other people that are watching. So congratulations. It makes a huge difference. And I think when you're in this space and you're creating these things, it takes so much time and energy and thought to schedule it and to edit them. There's so much behind the scenes that goes into all of this. And sometimes we don't even understand how it's really impacting other people.
Well, that's also the thing about passion. Well, the show's called Passion Harvest. Sometimes I call myself the passion ambassador, but I sometimes lose my passion. But that's
because we're still human.
Of course, there's the admin. Sometimes not everything we want to do, but when you're passionate about something, when it rocks your boat, when it lights up your world, it doesn't seem like work. Yeah. I feel so honored and so blessed to do this. I love it for
Yeah.
the most part.
Yes, yes. So you've interviewed lots and lots of people,
Mhm.
but I also feel like you have also yourself had a very synchronistic life. So can you share some of the stories of synchronicities that you've experienced that have kind of propelled you even more in this direction?
Gosh, I knew we were going to talk about this today, and I didn't even do my homework. I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? Um, I think, okay, I receive a lot of synchronicities from nature,
Okay.
whether it's feathers or a bird that happens that, shows itself. I remember I was asking myself a really important question. This is a while ago about a relationship. And I thought, is it going to be the one? Is it not going to be the one? And this incredible, it's a very rare Australian bird. It's a yellow-tailed black cockatoo. And it came several meters away from me, and it gave me a sign. Sometimes I see numbers and I know I'm on the right track. But as I progress on my spiritual journey, and I'm still probably in elementary school, we're all learning, I receive them more within now. And I realized that I don't necessarily need to look outside the answers. All I have to do is look around and see how my reality is, because I 100%, for the most part, we do have soul contracts, but for the
Mm.
most part, based on our thoughts and our emotions, we do create our reality. I receive a lot of guidance. I mean, I'm just thinking of something the other day. My mother passed several months ago,
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. But I
Yeah.
came back to Australia before I moved back to France, but I was packing up her apartment, and all of a sudden I felt her walk past me, and I smelt her. Just,
Oh,
she loved essential oils, and I just knew it was her. And that was just, it wasn't a message. It just, I knew she was around.
right.
Talking about signs and symbols, she passed in September, and I was overseas and I didn't really have many family or friends. It was pretty hard. But in all of our life, and maybe I'm digressing here because I always do, but we have an opportunity in each moment. Not there's no doubt conflict and contrast will come into our life. I don't want it, but it happens. But we can either use it as an opportunity to grow or not. I put everything in two columns: love and fear.
Mm.
And I knew that when my mother passed, she offered me a gift to grow incredibly. And of course, I grieved. And I remember, a few days lying in bed in the morning, wishing it was nighttime. But she also came to me and she told me that she transitioned. It was quite sudden. She had a heart attack and she transitioned, and everything it was in divine timing. It was pre-planned, but it was also pre-planned for every single person that was affected. And I remember lying in bed and I had all these tingles all over my body, and I knew she was offering me an upgrade. And I was just very present for that whole time. And it was her parting gift. So again, I'm digressing, but love and fear, I can use that as an opportunity. Of course, everyone has their own grieving process, but I can also see it as a gift and an opportunity for growth. And talking about love and fear, I live my life now as love is real. That's all there is. What would love do in each situation? And anything that's based on fear is really an illusion. And it goes back to the beginning of Passion Harvest and leaving my job. When we overcome our fears, and we all have fears, I call it false evidence appearing real. I have them too. But for me, I've just had the most profound growth when I've overcome my fears. It's like the universe rewards you or offers you a gift when you realize that fear is an illusion. So I would encourage all of the audience to think about their fears and realize they're just paper tigers. They're nothing. And all that is real is love.
Oh, I love that. So you mentioned that your mother gave you a gift
Mhm.
and she gave you an upgrade.
Yes.
So can you explain what that means and what that was for you?
Well, look, I'd never had anyone very close to me transition before, and I don't call myself a medium, but I can often connect with um, loved ones of people that have passed. Um, Grief
Well,
is
that's what a medium
incredible.
is. That's
Well,
a
I
medium.
don't know. Maybe I'm. Yeah, still in my worrying about being a weirdo stage. But grief is an incredible thing. So I'd never really experienced it before. And I remember receiving the news and my hands started shaking. And it was so amazing how it affected me physically as well. And I realized that even, we have energetic cords between people. We're having one now, but particularly with a mother or a father, someone very close. When the physical bond breaks because she's no longer in the physical form, that was cut as well. So my body reacted to that. But the energetic upgrade she offered me is that I don't think people always realize that when someone you love transitions, your body's different, your emotions are different, nothing seems real. And my body would just start tingling. And this is quite common in grief, but people don't realize this is a gift, a blessing from a transitioned loved one that has passed. So basically what it felt like, tingles, it felt like I was standing under a waterfall for hours. It could have been days. I really don't know the time frame. And I knew that I could have I was offered this gift by my mother to become a better version of myself. When she came to me as well, it wasn't her in the days that she transitioned, because they're much closer during that time on the physical plane. She came as a vibration, but she didn't come alone. She came as a collection of energies. I don't know who was with her, but it was a collection of energies. I knew that. And it was, yes, they were upgrading my body, my cells, and of course it affected my consciousness as well. I can only say, and I love my mother, that I'm a better version of myself after her passing. It doesn't mean I don't miss her.
Of course.
She's still there.
So
I have a different version of death.
So when somebody dies, what do you've interviewed lots of people who have had near-death experiences, and you've had your own experiences. What do you think happens when our loved ones die?
Or well, I had a guest on the show. Gosh, I can't even remember his name, and I loved him. Gosh, my brain's not that. But he said, I love what he said. He was a funny guy, and he said, spoiler alert, guess what? We're all going to die. So it's going to happen to all of us. There's no doubt about that. And there's also no doubt that, I'm sorry, I'm just digressing, but I just want to say that there's no doubt that everything outside of us is generally, for the most part, created by our consciousness. There's no doubt that at some point in time, everything outside of us will disappear: material possessions, things, people, and all that remains is us. So I believe our soul is eternal. When we transition, I do believe, from my own experiences and all the incredible people that I've interviewed, that our loved ones, our guides and angels, take us to a different realm, a different dimension, a different point of consciousness. And having said that, often people think, God or angels or source is in a far off universe. It's actually right here. It's just a different frequency. So it's not far off in the sky, because we are all connected, and we're taken in our non-physicalness, our essence, our soul. Everyone has different experiences based on their consciousness, based on this life. Some people have a rest period depending how they have died, what sort of life they have had. And then I do believe that we have a life review. And again, it's not a judgment, it's just an evaluation. Some people say this is a school, the school of life, an evaluation of what we've done and how we can improve and how we can learn and grow. Because not when we learn and grow in this life, I believe we are sovereign, but we're all connected in consciousness. So when I learn something inadvertently, subconsciously, you might learn this as well. And then I believe we return to source. We return to, some people call it heaven. We return to a rest period. And then we come back. And I got this message a while ago. I don't know if it was in a dream or it was a vision, but I thought, I think I was going through a hard time. I thought, I don't want to come back. I really, really don't. But then I thought about it and I received the guidance that, it's boring. We get bored. What would life be? I mean, I'd love to sit on the beach and have a pina colada in, Bermuda, but it might get boring after 3 months.
Right.
And then we're not challenged. So that's what I believe. Having said that, I do also believe that everything's happening now. So all our lives are happening now, which is a whole other mind-blowing topic. I don't believe in time. We're taught in our world that there's a beginning and an end, but I don't believe time is linear. If we look down above from space, even our life now, I think it's already been played out like a movie. So if we were looking from above, where we are now is just a point in space time that we perceive as now. But I do believe everything is happening now. And I also believe we have parallel reality. So there's multiple versions of Luisa. And the reason I said that is because energy can't disappear. It can dissipate, it can move. It flows like a river. It doesn't disappear. So there might be a version of Luisa that was still in that office job.
Right, that stayed behind.
There's multiple versions, and this is the one I'm consciously aware of now.
I completely agree with you. And it's funny, I heard somebody who had a near-death experience talk about they had a conversation with God and they asked them why we come to Earth. And God's response was, you bang on the door to get in. Like
Agreed.
This experience, I think, is a very profound experience on a soul level, because on the other side, we are love. And here we get to experience love, much like you talked about with, the closeness of your mother and just everything and everyone. But I want to go back to something you touched on that people may not be aware of, where you mentioned contracts, soul contracts. And I think when we talk about soul contracts, I want to differentiate, because I think that the movies have romanticized soulmates and as if we have only one that we could look for. But I believe that we have many, many, many soulmates, and there's no one of significance in your life who you have not known before. And I also definitely subscribe to the idea of soul contracts, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about it.
Yes. Can I just say about soulmates?
Yes.
We're conditioned. Sometimes I believe in quality, not quantity. So there's incredible people, and I definitely believe we're connected, but it doesn't have to last for the typical marriage and until death do us part. I don't think that is necessary. And that ties into soul contracts, because every person you meet, every relationship is basically a mirror of what you need to learn. I'll give you an example of one of my soul contracts that I had to learn was to, and I think this is the case for many women, is to realize that we can stand sovereign without a man. We don't need a man to support us to feel complete. Will I talk about that? How I realized that? So
Jerry Maguire had it wrong, right? You complete me does not really exist.
Well, once we realize we are completed, then we'll find our soulmates. I always say, because I do passion mentoring, and people, one of the big ones is relationships. How do I find my soulmate? And I always say, write a list of everything you want in a person, everything you want, and become that person, and then they'll come.
That's beautiful. I want to stop you right there, because I want everybody to let that sink in. I think when we're young, we have this idea of, I want this, I want this, I want this. But really what happens over time is that you realize what you don't want, and you only have that through your experiences. But I've never heard anybody say it quite the way you said it, which is write the list of what you want and then become that. That is probably the missing link that most people never really attach to or think about. They think about having that from somebody else, but not being that themselves. I love that, Luisa.
Thank you.
Amazing. And I think that should resonate with a lot of people.
And I've realized the definition of true love, so often it's what I can get. I want, that child, or I want that partner. I want that. But true love is allowing the other person to become the best version of themselves. That's what true love is. It's not about what it can do for you. It's what can I do for the other person.
That's very true. Yeah.
So a soul contract, I'll try and keep this condensed. I know you said not to.
I don't care. You keep going. This is those
It's
wisdom is
kind of a
priceless.
long-winded story. I'm just giving one example, but when I was about 7 or 8, my parents divorced, and I wasn't immunized, and I got German measles and measles as well. And just a few days before, I was at my grandmother's house, who I absolutely loved, who's transitioned now, and she made the most incredible spaghetti bolognese, and she made me spaghetti bolognese sandwiches, which literally blew my mind. Having said that, so I went to my father's house and I became very sick with the measles. He didn't believe in doctors, and for 7 days I couldn't move. I remember him carrying me to the cold bath just to reduce my temperature. I was delirious for the whole time, and I couldn't eat. I could barely drink, and I remember I kept asking for, please, can I have spaghetti bolognese sandwiches? But for that time when I was 7 or 8, I remember very, very clearly, and I know I was delirious, but I became, I'm just trying to describe it, very, very small and very, very big. My consciousness became, and this went on for 7 days. It almost became unbearable after a while. I was a Luisa, but I was more like, as people have a near-death experience, I thought I could have died, and I think I had a choice to live, but I became very small, like a tiny little pinprick. And then I became huge. It was just very strange. I got as big as the room, and then I got as big as the house, and then I got as big as above the earth, and it kept going on and on for days. Eventually, obviously, I'm still here. Well, I think I am. I recovered, and it opened up something for me. It opened up, I don't know what it was. I was only 7 or 8 at the time, but a type of consciousness, a type of different awareness. And I understand now, when people have these near-death experiences or have profound experience or deal with crisis, life changes. But it opened up different dimensions for me. And since, after that happened, a month or 2 later, I developed, I call it a soul entity attachment. So from the age of 7 to the age of 13, until I had my first boyfriend, every night when I went to sleep, it sounds scary, but it was just kind of annoying. I would have this screaming in my ear that got louder and louder as I closed my eyes. And my parents were separated. My mother said, just go to sleep. But my father would come in and hold my hand. And when someone was there, it wouldn't happen, or particularly when my father was there. But it happened every night. It was more annoying than anything. It was a noise like a humming, and it got louder and louder to a scream, until I ended up sleeping, sitting upright sometimes, and then it wouldn't happen. And I only realized that I thought about it, and I asked about it more recently, and I realized that it was my soul screaming that my parents were divorced, and I needed a man, my father, to be around, and I wasn't complete without him. It resonated through my life with partners and husbands. And 2 years ago, I broke that soul contract. I realized that I didn't need a man to complete me. And what I actually did was thanked my father, not in person. He would think I was crazy. I sent a rainbow of heart from my heart to his heart. And I know on a soul level that he left, not only for me, of course, not everything's about me, but we made an agreement that he would leave my mother, and I would, if I chose the opportunity to grow, that through my very unfortunate marriage and the things I've endured, that he taught me that I didn't need a man to complete me. And that was a powerful lesson. And I believe that was my soul also telling me, screaming out in fear. Fear's an illusion, everything else, there's only love. But I do believe that was one of my soul contracts, to realize that I'm a sovereign being and I'm complete, and I don't need a man or a woman or anyone else to complete me. And it's amazing once you realize that, how more things come into play. You're more completed. People around you are completed. So that was my brief story on soul contract.
That's a great illustration. I think a lot of people can probably relate to a relationship that they've had that taught them some type of a lesson. And I think that we keep on repeating the lesson, or we stay in these situations that are unsatisfying until we realize that we have the power to end it, to finish it, to complete it, to accept the lesson, to learn what we need to learn. But I think that there's also a part that can play in sometimes in these relationships, which is free will, which everybody is given. So
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about the free will and contracts? Because I think they're really closely connected so that people can kind of understand that.
Sure. We live in a realm of free will. Our only freedom, and I always say this, and that goes back to Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz, who wrote some incredible books. Despite what happens to us in our external circumstances, our only freedom is how to choose how to think and to be and to act in any situation, despite what happens. This is our true freedom. It can go down to, I've worked with souls that didn't want to transition, that it's their choice to stay earthbound spirits. We live in a realm of free will. But talking about synchronicities and coincidences and synchronicities, if you find yourself having the same relationship over and over again, or the same crappy job over and over again. And I know it's tough. I know life can be really hard, but remember, it's just a story. You are the author of your story, or the navigator of your ship. If you find yourself repeating patterns, maybe it's time to stop. And I just speak from I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I've done, and speak from my own personal experiences. You can't create a desired future from a vibration of the past. So if you're living in past hurts and past pain, you're going to get the same results. It's like Einstein said, if you keep doing an experiment the same way, you're going to get the same results. You need to change if you want to create a desired life, a passion. If you want to live a passionate life, you fundamentally need to change, both physically and mentally, and thoughts and patterns and behaviors. So
Wow.
does that answer your question?
Definitely. Definitely. I agree completely with that. Free will is such a big part of it. And I think that we have a soul contract with every single person that we encounter, because every interaction, a look from somebody, an action that seems as simple as cutting somebody off in traffic has a ripple effect. And so it's a contract because we are still affecting one another intentionally, unintentionally, in all of these different ways, because we are connected.
And just having said that, I just want to say one of the biggest changes I made in my life is I moved out of victim consciousness. I realized I was not a victim, despite what happened. I mean, not everything was great, but when I realized that I created this, or in part I co-created it, I realized if I got into it, I could get out of it. And moving out of victim consciousness is huge. It's really, really huge.
It is huge. So you also touched on something else I want you to elaborate
Oh,
on a
okay.
little bit. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is to connect to and figure out what their soul's purpose is.
Mhm.
And in doing that, you have to examine lots of different things. And one of the premises, I think, that is not often talked about, so it's not as mainstream, is the fact that we co-create, or mostly create, our life experience. And you just touched on that. So would you care to elaborate about what you mean for the people who don't understand the concept of you created this experience?
Oh, God, and it's really a hard one. I mean, it's really hard. Some people might say, I created this shit that's
I know,
surrounding me.
why would I do this when they're like, what's wrong with me?
Well, I guess this kind of goes into manifesting, but our thoughts are energetic and feelings are magnetic. So we live in a realm of free will, everything is energy. So whatever you think about, whatever you focus on is going to be created in your reality. Form takes a while to catch up to thought. So there's thought first, and then the form evolves. If you don't like your reality, change your thoughts. And it sounds simple, but get happy. That's one of the ways to start. Be grateful for things. Find more love in your life. Do kinder things for other people and primarily for yourself. Do you want me to talk about manifesting?
Sure, absolutely. Who
So,
doesn't want to
well,
understand?
look, I mean, everyone talks about this. I'm a very visual person. So step one is really to get clear on exactly what it is you want. I often ask many clients, I say, well, what do you want? And they don't know. They just say, well, I don't know, money, happiness, but I also say the universe can't help you. You can't hit a bullseye if you don't know the target. So get really clear on exactly what it is you want and write a list. If you don't know what you want, be very clear on how you want to feel moving forward, because that also relates to energy and you're aligning your body for those experiences. So get really clear. And know, see, this goes back to the faith and trust and believing and believe it's got to happen. Michael Sandler talks about, he calls it the time capsule. So he sits in his time capsule and meditates and gets freaking excited. So get really excited, because remember, the feelings are magnetic. They're going to bring that reality to you closer. So get really excited and really visual about exactly what it is you want, and then let it go, because I do believe that the universe is always offering us what we are wanting. Maybe it might not come in the exact way we had imagined. Don't get too caught up in the details, but it will always answer your prayers, always, always. And start and be aware for signs and synchronicities. You know, sometimes in our race to the end goal or race to the finish line, we miss the signs along the way, or the symbols that may actually show us a better path. So allow it and surrender. And when you feel really ready, when you feel aligned, when you know that's going to happen, then take actionable steps. And that is my path for manifesting.
That's wonderful. You touched in the very beginning of the interview where you talked about the job you had that you knew you weren't happy, and you had your happy place and finding that gum tree leaf, and then manifesting, in a sense, your new reality, which took you out of the place where you were shriveling and dying. Can you give us a few other examples of things that you have been able to manifest by setting intentions that you were like, yes, this is something I know I brought into my life because of an intention I set?
Oh gosh, okay, I have to think now. But I also want to say it also comes down to fear. I mean, I probably still do, but no, I'm not going to have it. I always wanted an Excel spreadsheet of the rest of my life. It would have made me so happy. Most people don't like the unknown. We can sometimes, I mean, I do have future memories personally, but you know, sometimes we can only see down the path and we don't see around the bend. And it's important to be okay with that. And I just want to say one thing, that when I realized that my future would be better than my present, then it made everything okay. We
Wow.
often think, oh, it's going to be worse. But when I realized, why would the universe want to give me something worse, why would it want to hurt me? When I realized it's only going to get better, it makes a big difference. And I had no option but to surrender. I had no option but to trust.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question again? The synchronicity?
So you had the manifestation of leaving. I mean, inadvertently, maybe, to leaving that position that was not fulfilling. So I know that you are big on setting an intention and creating something. Can you kind of share something that you know that you have brought to you through that process?
Well, I can talk about my future memories and Edward
Oh,
if
I
you
would
want me
love
to.
that. I've never heard it. Okay,
So,
I just had to look at kind of where are we on a time. And I love that you're doing this because I glanced at my clock really quick and the time is 4:44, my time, right as
oh,
you're
I
going to talk about
love
future
that.
memories. And I just love the
Oh
synchronicities.
my God, I'm going to try and condense this. I know, I keep saying that. So just just as I was leaving my corporate role and I would walk to work, I still remember, I'll just start very briefly with the beginning. I was walking along a long city street and I'm Luisa. Well, obviously I am, but all of a sudden, and there was no time, I slipped into another timeline. I don't know what happened. I call it future memories. I was in a house, it was in Europe. There was a man opening all these cupboards, calling out my name. The man, wouldn't have recognized him physically. He was a soul. I recognize, when you think of someone, it's their energy. And I just knew I had to find him. He was calling out my name. And then suddenly I'm still walking. So I almost bilocated somehow, I walked through some portal and it slipped open. And I called this man Edward. I didn't know why, but I believed this was still when I doubted myself, but this was so real. It was unbelievable. And the next time it happened, it would happen infrequently. I could have been sending emails. I'd be taken to this other realm. And the next time, 5 times it happened, he'd pick me up at the airport. We'd be in the car. We'd be driving for a long way. The first time it happened, it was so real. I thought, oh my God, I'm being abducted. It was so real. Again, he was driving. The music was on sometimes. I was looking out the windows of the trees passing by. I know we were heading towards his house, and happened 5 or more times. And then the next time it happened, I was in a cupboard. I positioned myself in a cupboard and we arrived at his house. And even though I was a soul in the cupboard, I could scan, I didn't choose to go there. I would scan the house and it'd be opening cupboards, calling my name. And it happened another 5 or 6 times. And again, I don't even know in my time frame as Luisa how long it happened, but it could have been happening all night in this dimension. So one day he is the soul, Edward, came into the cupboard and he looked up at me and he saw me and our eyes locked, our souls locked, our energy locked. And I knew then that he'd find me in this world as Luisa. I thought, how am I going to find him? And then I was transported another 5 or 6 times to this house and he'd be asleep on the bed and I'd curl up next to him and I'd say, Edward, come and find me. I'm in Australia. And 2 years ago now, I get lots of emails, I'm sure you do as well, and I try and respond to everyone as much as I can. I got this email from a man that said, hi, I've had a near-death experience. I don't want to talk about it. I live in Europe. Maybe I can help you on your quest. And I thought, quest? I thought, how rude, I'm not on a quest. But talk about synchronicities. I'd just done an interview with Diana Duran, the quest for the Holy Grail, the quest for true love and meaning. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to meet him. So I replied to say, sure, let's Zoom meet in a week. And that night I didn't sleep all night. Don't know why. I thought, should I not meet him? Is he dangerous? Is he some axe murderer? And I woke up that next morning and I asked my guidance the question that, should I not meet him? And then I asked the most ridiculous question of all. And I said, is this Edward? And it came back as yes. And I remember swearing and saying, oh my God. And I asked another 20 times and they said, yes, this is Edward.
Wow.
I was a nervous wreck because this had happened for a year, me having these future memories, and we met on Zoom, but I was a nervous wreck meeting him. And I had a choice with love or fear. We could Zoom meet and he could talk to me, but I thought, God, how can I call myself the passion ambassador if I don't tell him that he's Edward? I was so nervous. And I thought, let's just see how the conversation goes. And if he doesn't think I'm too weird and I build up the courage, I might tell him at the end. And I was so nervous. We spoke for an hour. I knew it was Edward. And I said, look, there's something I have to tell you. I've been having all these memories and it's you. And this is a short version. And he said, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing anyone's ever said to me. And there was COVID at the time and travel was restricted. He said, if I could jump on a plane now, I would. And
Wow.
we spoke for a year and a half. And I've just returned from Europe. I've been there for 5 months and I'm moving back there in 2 months.
Wow. So would you say that that would be what you would consider a soul recognition? Do you think that's why you were so nervous the night before and you couldn't sleep?
Oh, I think I was nervous. So again, he's an incredible teacher. Usually the best teachers are the ones that cause us the most conflict, like children or husbands. He's an incredible teacher. I think I was nervous for me because I had to overcome my own fear again of worrying what other people think. I think he's definitely a soulmate. You know, sometimes we meet people and we think we know them. How does that happen? You know, we've definitely had many lives before. And as we were speaking on the phone, things started happening. Like I said, I had this vision dream. You can call it what you want. I remember seeing him before birth. And we were in this black void. It was light, but it was completely black, an infinite space. And we were laughing and giggling like children. And he gave me a kiss on the cheek and he said, come and find me. And I knew he'd come to humanness. And the next thing I remember, I was on the top of the ceiling and he was being born. And I was his main spirit guide. I looked after him. And I had a choice. I knew it was 3 years. I didn't know how old he was at this time. I had a choice to come into physicalness or stay as his guide, but I chose to come into the life as a Luisa. My mother had several miscarriages, and I remember in the womb, something had happened to Edward. And I went back to check in my consciousness, and he'd nearly died. And then I realized he was okay, and I chose to be born as Luisa. And again, overcoming my fears, I said to him one day on the phone, there's something I have to tell you. It's kind of weird, but I guess you're used to me now. Did you nearly die when you were 3 years old? And he said, yes, I did. And he's actually 3 years older than me. I never knew that.
Wow.
Definitely an incredible connection.
Well, I think that soul contracts, I think, can go in a couple of different ways. I think that we have contracts with people that potentially can come into our lives and we engage or we don't. But I also think that we have some contracts with people that are almost like a destiny, in the sense that if all you did for your entire life is for 30 years sit on the lawn in one spot, that soulmate that was meant to be part of your life in this life would find you in that spot. It's like, it's an undeniable connection that is meant to happen, because in having that connection, you can only kind of accomplish some of the experiences, or could be lessons that you have set out for yourself to accomplish. Would you agree?
Yes, I really would agree. But at the same time, we live in a realm of free will. So take inspired action. Having said that, talking about soul contracts, some of my partners have not been the best, but they were the most incredible teachers. And I wouldn't be the person I was now. Not that they were positive necessarily experiences, but I'm grateful. And again, this goes back to gratitude, that I wouldn't be the person I was now if it wasn't for those experiences. And I'm not a victim. I realized I chose that because I, as a soul, as a Luisa, as my evolution, needed to learn the lessons. You can choose. Every moment is a lesson. Some people choose not to grow from it. And that, I find, everyone has free will, but sometimes that can be sad, because I see so much potential in people and fear holds them back.
Yes. Well, I think it's really powerful when people can understand that they've chosen these things that are happening for a reason. And it means it takes a lot of the culpability off of somebody else. When you understand the power is yours, then it makes it much easier to be able to say, okay, I'm going to pick a different path. I have the ability to leave this. I'm not stuck and I'm not a victim. And I think we can tease that all the way back into picking your parents. Like our parents are one of the most influential relationships we'll ever have. We cannot become who we have intended to become without that relationship. And it could be a grandparent, a parent, it doesn't matter. But some people will look at that and say, well, my parents were terrible. My mother was abusive. My father was an alcoholic, or whatever the situation was and would deny picking that. But if you really look at who you are and what you've become, you can only be who you are right now with every single instance and encounter that you have had up until this period of time.
Agreed. Yes. Again, what did you learn from them? And I also, you know, of course, it's very hard to move, particularly if you've had abusive parents, but often people, some of their soul lessons is to move on from that experience. They're still living in that moment of now, and they're not living now. And in essence, they've lost their freedom. So they have the choice. Right now, we all have a choice. Sometimes it's harder and easier. Depends what we're going. Choose now and choose again. It is your choice for your own freedom. And if we hold on to negative experiences of the past, it doesn't mean they weren't there. It doesn't mean they don't happen. But if we hold on to them, we're not free, and we can't move into a new evolving version of you, the best version of you.
And I think that's the ultimate goal. You've given us so many amazing things to think about, understanding that we are not a victim, understanding that we have the ability to manifest what we have in our lives, understanding that we can embrace every experience, learn from it, move forward, and create a life that we are in love with. So can you leave us with one last positive thought for everybody?
Oh gosh, I do this to my guests now. I'm on the spot. You can do and be and have anything you want. You deserve it, and always look for love. But ask yourself, what would love do in any situation? And don't give up. You are absolutely divinely guided, and just ask for help. Your guides and your angels are always there waiting, and get quiet and listen for the answers, and don't get caught up in the story of your life. Recreate your story if you choose, and your passions make you feel good and inspired and alive, and do more of that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Luisa. Thank you so much for coming on here to share your story and your signs and synchronicities. I genuinely hope that people who are listening to you have the ability now to kind of understand how it works and what they can do to help create a life that they are truly in love with.
Oh, thank you so much. And Laurie and the audience, thank you so much for listening. It's been such an honor and a delight to be on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.